Why doesn't The View have any trans women on it?
Great point. It has a lot of women that look trans, but none of them. It has a lot of second and third takes. After a drink, you'd go, huh? But it doesn't have a ton of,
It's zero.
I agree. It should be all trans women.
It's not even that. And The View, you don't need to find Trumpers. You need to fire your race baiters.
Yeah.
You need to fire the two races. You've had people. You had a McCain on there. You've had people on there before, and you ran them off. So the racist ones who want to stick to this, Whoopi and Sonny, and the, was it Bette Midler? What's her name? Broke Bette Midler.
It began like any other morning on daytime television. Easy chatter, political zingers, and the usual round of self-praise. But beneath the polished smiles, tension simmered. Overnight, a clip of Tyrus and Joe Rogan torching The View had exploded across social media. And by the time the cameras rolled, every host walked on set like a soldier marching into battle. This wasn't about left versus right. It was about reputation. The gloves were off. Tyrus didn't hedge or hint. He went straight for the throat. He said out loud what millions had been muttering for years. The View had morphed from a talk show into a partisan echo chamber. Rogan backed him up with clips, quotes, and context. Receipts the mainstream had conveniently brushed aside. The moment that segment hit the feeds, the internet didn't scroll past. It detonated. And when the hosts finally saw it, the temperature in the studio dropped. The fake laughter couldn't hide the fury. Whoopi rolled her eyes so hard the audience winced. Sonny's jaw tightened. Joy tried for a punchline and missed by a mile. Suddenly it wasn't entertainment anymore. It was exposure. The mask of moral authority cracked on live TV and viewers could feel it. This wasn't just one show calling out another. It was something deeper. Authenticity. Taking a swing at performance. Tyra spoke like a man who'd seen it all. Rogan sounded like one who'd had enough. Together they forced The View to face the one thing it's built to avoid, accountability. And once that current started flowing, there was no stopping it. Audiences felt the shift instantly, not as gossip but as cultural backlash. People were done being lectured by the same circle of voices pretending to debate. Tyrus and Rogan didn't ignite a feud. They pulled the curtain on an institution running on contradiction. And suddenly, everyone wanted to see how The View would spin its own unraveling. Because if you've watched the show long enough, you know the pattern. Outrage isn't a bug, it's the business model. One day it's a takedown of conservative women, the next a celebrity crucified for a bad joke. The wheel keeps turning, fueled by fury. But this time the script broke and the audience noticed.
Joy Behar was trying to say that I believe in dragons.
Wait, what is this? I just heard about it.
I checked it.
This guy, Joe Rogan, who believes in dragons. I checked it. He believes in dragons? He believes in dragons.
And the lady goes, did you double check this? She goes, I checked it. He believes in dragons.
Should be like
you think
Sasquatch,
they lived alongside of
bitch.
people.
Triple force that? Yes, I did. And he also thinks that dragons, like dinosaur-y type of animals, roamed the earth when people did.
This is the most important part. This is right after she was saying, we are run by ABC News. You should trust us, not Joe Rogan.
That's why people like our show, because they know that we are checked by ABC News.
If it fits their narrative, it's fair game. If it challenges it, it's dangerous. The pattern couldn't be clearer. Every time someone like Meghan McCain dared to offer a different perspective, the balance shattered instantly. Arguments stopped being debates and turned into moral showdowns. The discussion wasn't about ideas anymore. It was about loyalty to the script. That's the machine Rogan and Tyrus took aim at. A system that prizes applause over honesty. People seem to forget just how many controversies this show has quietly skated past. Remember when Joy Behar mocked Mike Pence's faith only to walk it back under pressure? Or when Whoopi Goldberg's take on historical persecution got her benched for a few episodes? Each time the playbook stayed the same. Deny, deflect, return, repeat. The View doesn't survive by learning from mistakes. It survives by erasing them. That's the hypocrisy Rogan hit straight on. The show preaches compassion while pushing away dissent. It talks about unity while slicing the audience into camps. It calls for accountability, just never from the people sitting at its own table. That double standard isn't accidental. It's structural. The outrage is choreographed, the morality scripted. Rogan and Tyrus recognize what the producers still don't. Viewers have grown smarter. They can spot authenticity from a mile away. They're tired of prepackaged virtue disguised as conversation. The View lost its grip the moment applause became more important than truth. And yet, the loop continues. Every viral spat follows the same rhythm. Moral outrage, edited sound bites, social media victory laps, and quiet fades. Once the backlash cools, the faces change, the outrage doesn't. And still here we are watching the same play one more time.
You know what Joe Biden could do since he is presently president? He could throw every Republican in jail.
You just need to see how unhinged this kind of thinking is. It's so
On TV,
crazy.
she said this
on television. The fact that she says that so confidently. If you're willing to let Donald Trump use presidential immunity, that means Joe Biden could just go crazy and arrest all the Republicans.
Fire them and bring people in. Maybe you could get McCain to come back. She was a Republican, but every show and every break, she was nearly in tears because she was being attacked. So the problem is that you have to go after the racist people. And if the CEO goes, you know what, I'm not going to allow a woman on my show or man that will go after white America and talk about them like dogs. That doesn't represent our ideals or values for anyone.
So when Tyrus challenged that cycle head-on, the reaction wasn't just agreement. It was vindication. Because The View isn't merely another talk show. It's the flagship of an elite media culture that preaches instead of listens. The controversy Rogan spotlighted wasn't an isolated flare-up. It was a mirror reflecting years of curated outrage and partisan comfort. That mirror, once turned outward, revealed everything they'd hidden from the audience. When Tyrus appeared on Fox and unleashed his viral critique, it wasn't bluster. It was precision. He said, "They call it The View, but there's only one view allowed." That line hit like an explosion in a quiet room. The clip tore through social media, capturing what millions felt but couldn't articulate. Within hours, Rogan mentioned it on his podcast, calling the show a scripted morality play. What followed was a cultural tremor. You could almost hear The View's control room in crisis mode. The next day's broadcast opened with brittle jokes. Joy cracked a jab about keyboard warriors. Whoopi waved it off, but the laughter fell flat. The tension hummed beneath the set lights. That brand of humor always comes before a reckoning. Then Sunny Hostin fired back, accusing conservatives of manipulating clips to sow division. The audience groaned, the mood snapped. Rogan, however, had the footage stood. On his next episode, he played the receipts, side-by-side clips showing The View, condemning misinformation while spreading their own. He didn't shout. He didn't spin. He let the contradictions hang in silence. That silence wasn't professionalism. It was disbelief. Tyrus used the moment to zoom out. He reframed it as a crisis of honesty, not ideology. He said, Americans no longer trust the gatekeepers who decide what's acceptable to think, and The View had become the prime example. His phrasing cut through every network defense. It used to be a table for different voices. Now it's an echo chamber with better lighting. The line ignited instantly, shared, quoted, and memed across platforms. It struck a nerve because it told the truth. When shows claim moral superiority but flout their own standards, they don't just lose arguments, they lose credibility. And credibility, once gone, can't be clapped back into existence. That's when panic went corporate. Insiders leaked that producers were torn between silence and rebuttal. Either option spelled trouble. Ignoring it meant guilt. Fighting back meant feeding the storm. Sources said the cast was told to rise above it, but off-air, tempers boiled. One staffer allegedly muttered, "He exposed the act." And now the audience knows. By week's end, the fallout was total. Clips of Tyrus and Rogan trended side by side while The View tried to pivot with soft features that fooled no one. Viewers sensed the desperation, the fatigue of forced laughter, the awkward denial that anything had happened. Rogan didn't need their stage. Tyrus didn't need their blessing. But The View, built on public validation, suddenly looked brittle and outdated. For once, daytime TV's loudest panel wasn't leading the conversation. It was losing it, and the exposure reached beyond one show. It became a reckoning for performative media itself. When image collides with truth and truth finally wins. Rogan didn't just echo Tyrus's critique, he amplified it to the stratosphere. On his next episode, he paused The View's laughter, replayed their snide jokes, and dissected them like evidence. The irony was rich. A show famed for fearless conversation couldn't stand a challenge. That contradiction gave Rogan all he needed. Calmly, he outlined years of selective outrage. How they defended allies, demonized critics, and called it balance. They act like they guard the truth, he said. But only when the truth agrees with them. That sentence ricocheted across timelines, a collective exhale from viewers who'd long felt gaslit. His critique wasn't entertainment. It was diagnosis. He tied it to a growing fatigue with media masquerading as neutral while pushing an agenda. Audiences have evolved. They spot the bias instantly. When The View ridicules its opponents, then cries foul under scrutiny, it stops looking like journalism and starts looking like branding. Rogan treated it as a case study in collapsing trust. Within days his reached their ratings. Clips from his show flooded every platform, each one cutting deeper into The View's pretense. He showed them condemning misinformation one week, then spreading their own the next. The contrast was brutal. People weren't just amused, they were archiving hypocrisy, and that's when critique turned into exposure. Rogan coined the phrase designer accountability, calling out how The View demands grace for itself, but denies it to others. Memes exploded overnight. The phrase stuck. Because the deeper truth was undeniable, the public no longer trusts polished monologues over unfiltered conversations. The hierarchy flipped. Viewers now trust the podcasters, the ones without cue cards. Well, it is the show that people love to hate. Yes, that's true. They get so much hate watching and hate watching viral clips of them saying ridiculous things. I mean, it is a rabies-infested henhouse. The most interesting part was their audience seemed to be on my side. Yes. And that's their audience. Yes. Well, their audience is not really their audience. Their audience is a group of people they bring in to watch television shows. That reversal marked more than a viral moment. It was a seismic shift in influence from corporate studios to independent voices. Rogan never claimed moral superiority. That humility made him dangerous to The View. When accused of punching down, he just laughed. They're the biggest daytime show on national TV. I'm one guy with a mic. That unpolished logic rattled his critics. He embodied the unfiltered public voice, something The View couldn't out-talk or outstage. And when Tyrus appeared later on Fox to weigh in on Rogan's segment, their alignment was effortless. No coordination, no scripts, just two commentators cutting through the same facade. Media hypocrisy, selective virtue, and the performance of inclusivity. Together, they created a message no press statement could bury. The internet made its judgment fast. Authenticity won and cards lost. Inside ABC's studio, tension boiled over. The hosts had seen the Rogan footage. They knew their credibility was unraveling live, and the morning production meeting turned chaotic. One insider put it plainly. They wanted to retaliate but couldn't agree how. What followed on air was panic disguised as poise. The smiles were tight, the laughter brittle. Whoopi opened with a speech about online agitators dividing people. A thinly veiled swipe at Rogan, but the crowd didn't respond. The silence said everything. Then Sunny tried to pivot, framing the backlash as a coordinated attack on women with platforms. That spin imploded instantly when Joy, half under her breath, asked, "But weren't we the ones who started talking about him first?" They won't fire her over that. She'll have an opportunity tomorrow to come on and fix it. Will she? She won't. But that's the thing about this country. Black, white, gay, straight, short, tall. Everyone's going to get hit with something. But the beauty about this country is there's always an opportunity for you to better yourself. So shame on you, Whoopi. Play the black card somewhere else because don't work here in America. When it comes to hair, we just leave Whoopi alone. It's so hard watching The View because even when you're deaf, everybody in the table is saying something wrong. It's like you're focusing on Whoopi, but then the woman who's arguing with her is also saying things that are wrong. It's just one big nobody watches The View. They watch you watching the applause. Crowd laughed nervously and the awkwardness said it all. Behind the scenes, producers were split. Some urged silence, others demanded retaliation. What followed was a cobbled-together segment on media integrity, a transparent act of self-preservation that sounded more panicked than poised. Whoopi's voice rose as she accused Rogan and others of profiting from tearing women down. But the internet was already resurfacing her old clips, mocking female politicians. The contradiction was impossible to ignore. Tyrus pounced. On his next Fox appearance, he played their current outrage beside their past laughter. No commentary needed. The hypocrisy spoke fluently. One clip dismantled the illusion. The View laughing at others then raging when the mirror turned inward. It wasn't political. It was psychological. The show's credibility was devouring itself. Rogan, never one to let irony go to waste, responded with surgical humor. If your first instinct to criticism is to criticism, he quipped. Maybe it hit closer than you want to admit. That line detonated online, spreading faster than any rebuttal. It wasn't cruelty, it was precision. The hosts who called everyone else fragile were now unraveling in real time. By week's end, public ridicule outpaced anything The View could control. Memes cast Whoopi as the self-appointed guardian of truth, while late-night hosts mocked their thin-skinned defensiveness. Even friendly outlets urged them to take the loss gracefully. They didn't. Instead, they doubled down. They aired a segment titled Fighting Back Against Misrepresentation, unknowingly proving Rogan's point. When one host asked, "Do people even believe us anymore?" the silence that followed wasn't scripted. It was existential. For the first time, The View wasn't steering the discourse. It was drowning in it. And in television, perception is oxygen. Once the illusion of control fades, so does the audience's faith. Public reaction came like a tidal wave. Hashtags like #ViewGate and #designer accountability trended for days. Across party lines, people agreed on one thing. The View looked out of touch. The panel's moral outrage had turned into parody. Social media flooded with juxtapositions. Rogan calmly podcasting beside The View's hosts, scolding their audience. The visual contrast told a single devastating story. Authenticity versus performance. Celebrities piled on. Comedians, commentators, even ex-guests joined the chorus. One viral post summed it up. Imagine proving your critic right on live TV. Millions shared it before ABC's PR team could react. Then came the meltdown. The show's Instagram flooded with backlash from its own fans. What was once applause became revolt. Within days, ABC quietly disabled comments on multiple posts, fueling the narrative they couldn't handle dissent. Meanwhile, Rogan's and Tyrus's audiences ballooned. Their clips became rallying flags in a wider debate about truth versus theater. It wasn't about personalities. It was about trust. People were choosing candor over choreography. By week's end, even The View's loyal viewers looked disillusioned. The moral high ground had crumbled. No amount of applause signs could mask the truth. Authenticity had left the building. In the end, the fallout wasn't just about one show. It was about the system it represented. Tyrus and Rogan didn't invent the critique. They crystallized it. They exposed the soft underbelly of media sanctimony. The View relied on rhetoric. Their critics relied on reality. And the audience felt the difference. The real story wasn't about gender or politics. It was about authenticity versus agenda. When conversation becomes theater, truth becomes collateral. Tyrus proved that principles bend easily under studio lights. Rogan showed that credibility thrives without them. Together, they stripped away the veneer of moral performance. Every viral moment since has echoed the same truth. People now spot insincerity instantly. The View's reaction wasn't courageous. It was conditioned. But conditioning can't rebuild trust. Once viewers realize their faith has been traded for applause, they never return. So, who was really exposed? Not just the hosts but the illusion they stood on. Authenticity won and the verdict was final.